satellites?
A satellite represents a journey, information gathering, this journey around the Earth. Welcome to Satellite Haiku. I'm Sean.
I'm Milo. Welcome to the Haiku.
I jumped on your line.
That's okay. You can always hop in. What was that? Oh, there was a really funny SNL skit a few weeks back about this character who wanted to have it was like a writer's room, and they had brought in this like really old like 80s writer from 80s sitcoms to be on like a news show, and he kept coming up with these ideas where the main character would have like a catchphrase. And they're like, we don't do catchphrases. That's from the 80s. And he's like, but no, isn't that the whole show? Like, and it was actually very, very funny. Yeah,
it's funny. Yeah, catchphrases. The characters always had gimmicks back then.
Totally.
All right, so I was thinking about something. This is not like all a big topic. So I don't know what we want to talk about today. But the thing that I was thinking about, I had a hard time sleeping last night. Okay. So I'm not going to tell you directly what the thought was that was rolling around in my head that kind of I started to obsess on. But I'll get there by asking you a couple questions.
Sure.
So just describe to me, like when you decide it's your bedtime, it's late, I'm gonna go to bed. Describe to me, like once you get in bed, what your process is for falling asleep.
I mean, that's one of like my greatest gratitude list things is that I can fall asleep in about 15 seconds.
Okay.
I can just close put on my eye thing, put in my earplugs, roll over, boom, I'm out.
Oh, you do eyes and earplugs?
I do earplugs, eyes. I even put my mom gave me this little pillow that I put on top of my head.
So you go fully into, interesting.
You go into a cocoon. And
all right, so you have a couple little props there that help you. Yeah, the eye blind and what do they call that? A mask, sleep mask, and earplugs. I put earplugs in when my wife is snoring, and I wake like she'll come to bed sometimes after me. And then I'll wake up to her snoring, and it'll be just the wrong point of the night for me to fall back asleep. I just she snores pretty loud, so I have earplugs for that. But okay, so yeah, the thing that I started thinking about as I was lying there and not falling asleep was that how weird it is that the process of falling asleep involves first pretending you're asleep. Like basically you get in bed and then you pretend you're asleep until you're actually asleep.
That is interesting.
That's what I couldn't stop thinking about. It's like how weird it is that that's how we were evolved. Like we need sleep. And like sometimes you just doze off, right? Like, maybe you'll be watching TV or sitting there and you'll doze off. Like I don't do that very much, but my wife does that. She'll fall asleep watching a movie, whatever, with me. Every time we watch TV together, she falls asleep before it finishes. And I have that dilemma, like, do I finish it without her or do I stop it now and we continue this together? And it usually depends on how far into the the movie or the episode we are. Like if there's 10 minutes left or 15 minutes, I'm gonna just watch it.
Right.
I'm not gonna pause it so that we can watch the last 15 minutes together when she's awake. But anyway, I was just thinking, like, normally though for me, the process is basically I get in bed and then I pretend I'm asleep until I'm asleep.
Well,
that just seems so absurd.
With this kind of question, I've always been fascinated with sort of Darwinian evolution and the filter that like those techniques or methods that didn't work got weeded out by the gene pool. But if I were to I like to examine this kind of question from the perspective of if you were a software development, hardware development team building a robot that was a human, and your early prototype had narcolepsy. Like it just could fall asleep like that. It would cause a lot of accidents. Like it would fall over and hit its head.
But how convenient would it be? Like if you were designing it, like wouldn't you design the system so that you could just like when you're hungry, you could tell you could just go eat, right? Like you get a signal I'm hungry. I put calories in myself. Problem solved.
Right.
Like it's like, oh, I need sleep, and it's a safe moment right now. I'm gonna sleep for 2 hours, and you would just like press a button and you go to sleep.
Yeah, and I suppose that you do sort of yawn. Like there are sort of things that your
Yeah,
body
you feel
temperature.
tired.
Yeah, you feel tired. You yawn, maybe.
Yeah, like it's time to go to bed.
Your
I'm
eyes
tired.
feel heavy.
But you don't go. I mean, maybe you have 15 seconds, but like I go to bed, and for me it's maybe 15 minutes, but still, it's like it just strikes me as such a strange. Like I don't think other animals are like that.
I mean, other animals.
I think other animals just fall asleep when they're comfortable. They doze off.
Do you remember cow
Do you
tipping?
think dogs lie down and go like, "Hey, it's time to sleep. I'm gonna pretend I'm asleep for a couple minutes here, and then I'll fall asleep." Like it just doesn't. It doesn't seem like. Maybe they don't think about it, but yeah, for me, it's like, oh, I need to get up in the morning. I need my. I'm not necessarily super tired right now, but if I stay up until I'm really tired, like I'm gonna be sorry tomorrow. So it's time for bed.
Yeah, yeah. Do you remember?
So I'm just going to go pretend I'm like, if somebody else came into the room, they wouldn't know, are you sleeping? Are you pretending to sleep? Right. Like it's indistinguishable.
Yeah, I suppose.
Anyway,
like, do you remember
I don't
when we were kids and like we would go up to say like Kempton or something,
Yeah.
and our classmates from there would tell us about cow tipping. Like I've never. It might be a myth.
Yeah.
It might be might be a rural myth.
I've only seen it in the movies and heard about it. I've never
the
witnessed
idea
in live
that-
cow tipping.
That cows literally just fall asleep standing up. Like they just
Yeah.
and then they don't, they don't lie down or anything. They just kind of like that.
What about horses? Do the horses stand or
I
don't
think
know.
horses. I've seen like horses kind of roll around a little bit in the grass and try to make a bed. Like dogs like turn in a circle.
I've seen whole fields of cows like down
Yeah,
on their
yeah,
bellies
it's true.
too. So
No, I have
I
too.
don't know what. Maybe they're more evolved cows. Like they figured it out. Like, hey guys, if we just sleep standing up, we keep getting tipped over.
Yeah.
I have this new technique. What about like? Isn't it dolphins that sleep with half their brain at a time?
Oh,
So that they don't. I was debating this with my daughter because she was like, it's so they can be on the lookout for predators or whatever. And I just always thought, what's so they don't drown because they have to keep the air hole on the surface.
oh wow, yeah, that's true. Huh.
So I don't know, and I don't know which it is. Maybe both.
There is a fascinating study. That when people would joke to you and say like you're at camping and they'd be like, "Hey, keep one eye open. There's a mountain lion or something," and that sort of idea. There's like famous
Ducks. That's what ducks do.
Yeah. So there's this guy who studies ducks, and he studies the brain of the ducks, and they're in a row, and the ones on
Yeah.
the outside have the opposite side of the brain from the ear that's facing away from the group.
Yeah.
So that the side that's processing.
They're looking. They're like on guard.
They're on guard, and that
lookout duty. Yeah.
that half the brain
night watch.
stays
Night watch.
stays on, and you wonder like, are they? Do they take turns? Like, is it? They're just like highly.
Yeah, they take
acclimated?
turns.
They do.
Yeah,
they take turns.
They
Wow.
take turns. Yeah, yeah.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
I don't know what their rotation is. Like if it's like every few hours, or if it's like, hey, tonight's your night to be half asleep.
Yeah, I always like one thing. Like, so I have my mom and my oldest sister are insomniacs, and they have struggled their entire lives with sleeping soundly and little noises. And I've tried to suggest things to them, like put your legs up the wall, like do like down child's pose is supposed to be really good at sort of calming the nervous system. Drink chamomile tea.
There's like
Vegas nerve things. You can
kind of-
hum. You can humming helps. Anyway,
Yeah.
but what's interesting about like for instance my mom is I say, oh, I just put earplugs in, cover my eyes, and I go to sleep. And my mom will say, well, let me back up and say my grandfather was really sensitive, like my mom, right? And he was like 89 years old or something, and we bought him a new VCR and a TV and put it in his room. And he said, oh, I'm not going to be able to sleep because that clock is blinking.
Oh yeah.
So someone put a piece of black electrical tape over the clock, and he said, well, I'm going to know that under the tape that it's blinking, and that's going to bother me,
Oh
And so,
my God.
So my
now
mom,
he's just being difficult.
yeah. So my mom is like that, where she's like, but if I put the earplugs in, I worry that if there's a burglar, I won't be able to hear them. So you're like, well,
I have a little bit of that too with like I have maybe it's like a mild claustrophobia thing with like the eye blinds and the earplugs. I feel like it feels like somebody's putting a like it's not it's in the sort of the family of sensations. Like if somebody were smothering me, asphyxiating me with a pillow, it feels like it's mildly anxiety inducing for some reason. And I don't know that that I have a rational thought like, I won't hear the danger. It's more just like this feels enclosed in a way that is unnatural and a little bit anxiety inducing. And so like I use eye blinds when I do like the ayahuasca, ceremonies and stuff, or if I'm doing psychedelics, I'll do the eye blinds.
Oh, that's intense.
To go deeper into the experience. I always use them, but that's the only time I ever really use eye blinds. My wife has some device. Oh, it's like she has a couple different devices that do blink or have bright little lights on them that keep me if I can see them through my eyelids. I'm convinced that I can. I don't know if I can or if I'm just convinced that I can. So I have to go and like get up and like put a book in front of it or something when she plugs it. She has like some sort of power bank thing that she plugs in sometimes that has a really bright light on it.
My daughter gave us this thing. They became a fad last year. They're called weighted blankets.
Oh yeah,
And
I've been really fascinated with those. What do you think?
Oh my gosh. Oh, my wife and I just absolutely love it. It's like,
really?
yeah, like that famous woman that was on the autism spectrum.
Yeah.
And I forget her name, the one that
Temple
Grandin, yeah.
Yeah.
And she talks about how when the cows are going to be killed, if they put them in the chute and they squeeze their rib cage with that blanket thing. And like, for instance, my first wife used to work at a special ed school where a lot of kids had autism, and they would put a weighted vest on them. If the kid was freaking out and screaming, they would put the weighted vest on.
It's interesting. That's interesting because like you always hear with autistic kids, they don't want human contact, right? Like, but I guess they need the same, maybe they need the same sort of bodily sensation, but without a human doing it or something.
Interesting. Yeah.
I
I put one of the vests on
interesting.
and I was like, damn, this is relaxing. Like something about it feels
You
very
just feel like you're
relaxing.
being held, kind of.
Yeah, or I don't know.
Like the people that like I remember when weighted blankets were first starting to become a thing, and there was like one of the things I remember somebody saying, somebody who was sort of promoting the benefits or the whatever was kind of talking about how maybe it gives like a womb-like signal to us, like a kind of like you swaddle a baby,
yes,
right? Like
of course,
it's sort of like to sort of emulate the womb a little bit. So their hypothesis was sort of like it sends some sort of womb-like primal signal to us that relaxes us or something. There was a guy I just saw. He was talking about how he had a weighted blanket, and he ordered a weighted blanket, and then he put it on. And he was like, it doesn't feel like I feel like I ordered like one that wasn't quite heavy enough. So then he went back to, Amazon or whatever. And they were like he had like the 10-pound or something. And then he was like, the 15 and the 20 and the 25 were all sold out. So he's like, I guess I'll get the 35.
Oh.
and then he was like, he put the 35 and the 10 on himself or whatever. And he was like, he said he woke up in the morning and he was like, I'm not. It was so easy just not to get out of bed. He was like, I guess like if people who work out in the morning, those are go-getters. And he's like, I discovered I'm not a go-getter.
So I had this thing. Do you remember in 1984 how the government wants to? They have some way of finding each person's worst nightmare.
Yeah.
And then they can torture you with your worst nightmare. I forget exactly how they get the worst nightmare.
I don't remember either. I got to read that book again. It's been so long.
Yeah. So I'm gonna. Well, anyway, his was the thing with the rats in the box, like you have your face in the rat. Anyway, and so like ever since I was a child, like because you mentioned in the womb, and like I was supposedly 3 weeks late. Like I was way past my due date, and I came out. I looked like a shriveled old. They called me the little old professor, because I was like bald with like a really wrinkly face. And I remember my mom tells me that the nurse said, "Don't worry, Mrs. Longstaff. The ugliest babies turn out to be handsome, they say." because I was really ugly.
Yeah.
And anyway,
Yeah.
so I was pretty
It's really
miserable.
uncomfortable to see somebody's ugly baby, like when you meet their baby for the first time, and if their baby's ugly, like it's such an uncomfortable thing.
Yeah,
You don't know
well, you don't know what to say.
say.
You don't know what to say.
Yeah.
You
Anyway,
give-
continue. Yeah.
Anyway, so my I've been claustrophobic my whole life. Like not the kind of claustrophobic where I can't go in an elevator, but if you restrict my body permanently, like I'm squeezed between
Yeah.
rocks or something.
I remember you were saying like your
freak out.
experience of psychedelics was very claustrophobic.
Very
somehow.
claustrophobic. Yeah, it felt like my brain was being squeezed down to this little.
Yeah. So you have like you're prone to that say claustrophobic.
Yeah,
kind of
and what's weird is
anxiety a
I
little bit,
love the weighted blanket. I love the eye thing in the ear. So it's not that. But if you were to say, like, if let's say I just horrifying, kind of like dark joke, but like, if the regime, like, picked me up and wanted to like torture me, and they had some ability to find that thing that really scares me, like, I remember there was a mafioso who was killed by being buried up to their neck in concrete. And then they just left him there and it slowly hardened and they couldn't breathe. And like, to me, that for some reason is way worse than just being shot in the head. Like I would, I just, I don't-
yeah. Well, I mean, it's a slow death for one thing, but yeah, way worse than other slow deaths, maybe.
It's like there's something about being trapped in, like if I was captured by the CIA in Afghanistan and they wanted to torture me, all they'd have to do is put me in like a very small box and like lock it. And I would just freak out. Like I would, because I remember hiding once and my mom had a sewing, it was a footstool, an ottoman that you could open the lid and it was pretty big, like a meter. And she had all of her knitting stuff in there. And I would climb in there to hide during hide and seek. And my older sister, would sit on top of it when she thought I was in there and not let me out. And I just would start crying and screaming.
That's interesting because like you got in there. So like there's something about that enclosed space that wasn't scary to you. Maybe your sister did this to you.
It's true. It's being trapped in there, not actually going in there. It's being not allowed out. That's what's scary to me. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So my therapist,
I mean, that's just pretty much textbook claustrophobia, right? So.
I guess. I mean, my therapist, a former therapist who used ayahuasca as a therapy, she had worked with me through this claustrophobia through psychedelics, and she said, I think for you, and maybe I mentioned this in like episode 23 or something. She goes, I think for you, the next step in your spiritual development is you need to take that shamanic. There's like the British Druids would do one where they would basically bury you alive for 24 hours with a straw. They put boards over you and then cover it with dirt, and then you have a straw to breathe. And you're in there for 24 hours. And
I don't think you could handle that. That seems like a terrible...
Right. So I was like, when she said that to me, I was like, please, that's like my worst nightmare. Like that would literally be, I don't know how to, you know what I mean? Like in Kill Bill when they bury her alive. Remember when she punches her way out?
Oh, that's
like,
such
my worst nightmare.
That's such a great sequence, that whole part of Kill Bill.
Totally. Yeah. I love that. I love when because they go back and they show her practicing that little tiny punch, and then her hand is all bloody and she can barely move, and then that shows like why that comes in handy, like when you're in the thing. It doesn't really make sense that you could get out of there if there was enough dirt on top of you, because where would you put the dirt that's coming down?
Right.
It would. It doesn't. I don't think there's enough space to make your way out through the hole.
Depends how deep she was buried, but yeah.
They made it really cool because she put her hand up and it was like, like she was kind of like a superhero, which she wasn't. I like that Tarantino does a good job of adding dark comedy to his bloodiness and the violence. Like there's like a lot of like quirky little comedy.
Yeah. I mean, Pulp Fiction was the sort of the one that really is the standout in that mix. I mean, maybe it was because it came before Kill Bill, but just the way that movie begins. Doesn't it begin with Samuel L. Jackson and John Travolta, like they're going to collect money from that kid or whatever?
Oh yeah.
And they're talking about the Royale with cheese. They're like just driving in the car and they're having this conversation that has nothing to do with the movie or the plot or what they're doing or why they're getting money. Like, I think there's just very few filmmakers that would, like, the dialogue is, it's the first 5 minutes of the movie. You think the dialogue is going to try to set the, like tell you where you are, what's happening, like situate you in the movie somehow. And it does, but in a completely backwards, backdoor kind of way. You know who those characters are through that dialogue, but it has nothing to do with anything that you're about to see.
This is an interesting weave because we talked about this before about books and movies, like what movies that were better. So like a lot of Tarantino's films, aren't they based on Elmore Leonard novels? I think a lot of them.
I never heard that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if we look it up, I think a bunch of them are, and that Pulp Fiction certainly I think is a short stories by Elmore Leonard.
Yeah.
And then the Wachowski brothers, for instance, they didn't write The Matrix. Like they just found a zine. What is it? A comic book, and they just brought it to life using almost like storyboarding it, and then they brought it to life.
Yeah.
So like their genius and Tarantino's was to have the camera running and to direct the actors and to get everyone, the set built. But they didn't really think of the story. Like the story came from somewhere else.
Well, I mean, maybe there's like story by and screenplay by, right? Like, I mean, obviously he's adapted the story to the screen, and it's not just simply a matter of filming what he read, because he had to structure it in a way to tell. Like, the structure of Pulp Fiction is so well structured as a film, the way the different plot lines intersect and the briefcase. And I don't know if that was if it was told that way, if it wasn't adapted from something, if it was told that way in the original or what, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, because there's an art to adapting something for sure from book to screen. Yeah.
And like, for instance, like there's tons of places to inject your own, like in the dialogue as they're driving to kill the person. Like, in the book, it might've been like, they drove to kill a guy, and then it's like, you have a 5-minute scene where they're like joking about hamburgers. And like, that's so much a big part of the quality of the film and the story. But let's say he added all that. I don't know, but
I don't know. Yeah,
it's an interesting.
Or just like breaking up the linear timeline into these different ways because it keeps jumping back in the timeline and telling a different person, it starts with a different person's story and things like that. Like who knows whether that was anyway. All I'm saying is I don't know. I never heard that they were adapted. I love Elmore Leonard's books though. Like and there's some really good movies from his books that were. Direct, like Get Shorty. That's such a great one.
It's really good. There's two kind of like, I guess back to the Wachowskis. Like, I remember being disappointed when I read the illustrated novel. What's it called? It's a comic book, but it's
like
called
a graphic novel.
A graphic novel, yeah. And after I fell in love with the first Matrix, and I just thought, what a beautiful idea. It's all this Buddhism, like the sense of self and who are we. And then I read the graphic novel, and I was like, oh my God, they just made the movie as if this was the storyboard. And when I would hear them talk about the philosophy behind it, I would be like, dude, you didn't even write it. Like, I don't, you're not necessarily
like basically the translation of the graphic novel to the screen was so direct. It was like, they didn't
not
even
a single change, really, like almost. And it was weird that they were representing the film as if it was their
this sort of like
concept.
personal genius. Yeah, interesting.
So then the other one was this show Severance with Ben Stiller as the director. And when they interview him, he often defers to the fact that the guy who wrote it, he goes, he said,
I have the book right here.
Oh yeah. He says, I've never worked in a corporate environment. So for me, and this guy had, and it took him 10 years to get it basically made into a screenplay that could be sold and optioned. Yeah. And so Ben Stiller talks about how this guy's experience was so embedded in this whole concept of Severance, and how he, as the director, it's interesting for him because he never worked for a corporation, so he doesn't. It's like new to him,
Yeah.
And he was really clear about the fact that he just didn't write it, I mean, he maybe wrote the screenplay, as you say, or uses a writer room, but the initial, I guess, the pilot or whatever.
Yeah, the story, the concept. Yeah.
Anyway, it's an interesting thing to sort of. We oftentimes assume that the director of a film or a series is the writer, and it's kind of common, actually. I mean, there's plenty of directors who do write. So
yeah, I mean, there's a sort of that auteur kind of person versus just somebody who's a director. Did you watch? Speaking of the latter, just somebody who's just a director. Like I started watching that Ferrari, not Ferrari, the F1 movie with
Yeah.
Brad Pitt
Yeah.
on Apple TV.
Yeah.
And just because I was doing stuff the other day, and I was like, oh, this seems like a movie that could just be in the background, while I'm, like it just seems like it's just an action movie, kind of a.
Yeah.
But then I didn't finish it. I only watched maybe the first 20 minutes of it because I finished what I was doing. I was like, oh, I'll watch it again, and maybe I'll come back to it. But then I guess it got nominated for Best Picture.
Wow.
Academy Award. So it's like Jerry Bruckheimer got a film nominated for Best Picture, and so now I'm intrigued because I'm like, is there more to this movie than it seemed? Because I literally only watched the first 20 minutes, and it struck me as like, it's a total formula, like it's Formula One, but like it's like the grizzled older driver and the young buck, and like their characters are just like cardboard cutouts of the like exact. It just seems to me like a really formulaic kind of. So I could see it winning like or getting nominated for like best sound or best editing or something, because I could see a movie like that might have like really tricky editing, special effects, things like that. But Best Picture I was sort of surprised that.
Yeah, that's a long shot for me, but I'm surprised too. I watched.
So
it
now
on the
I'm
plane.
super curious. I want to go back and actually watch it because I'm like, maybe there's more. Maybe it has more to offer than I'm sort of assuming or guessing from Jerry Bruckheimer. Anyway, go ahead.
I watched it a month ago on the plane, and it was.
Oh, you watched the whole thing?
And it was it was interesting enough because when the flight is over and you have like 20 more minutes.
Yeah.
So I went home and watched the last 20 minutes on Apple TV because it's Apple TV Plus. Mm-hmm. And then my wife comes home the next day and she's like, oh, because she's really into Formula One. Like she watched that Netflix show about Formula One and like knew all the. She just like was so into Formula One and it's becoming like crazy popular for women to like get into Formula One.
Interesting.
I was teasing her. I was like, I'm kind of jealous because all of the guys are like super buff and ripped and like 25 years old. And I was like like maybe that's why you're into it. Like it's like,
right. Well, how do you and Huli joke about like, some couples joke like each person has a list. Like if I had the opportunity, like Lonnie and my wife and I used to joke. Like
I don't joke about it because
we haven't talked about that in a long time because her list was like Taye Diggs at one point was on her list.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And Justin Timberlake, I think. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Before or after the drunk driving?
I don't know, but like that was years ago. So like these have long dropped off her list.
You know that he drove in Sag Harbor. He like drove his car drunk.
JT?
Yeah.
Oh,
and then he was like. He was like 5 minutes from his house, but he was like in a parking lot and he like couldn't get out. So he like banged into like 5 or 10 other cars before the cops came, and he was like, oh, and he was super drunk.
I vaguely remember that. Like his fall from like I haven't heard much about him in like he seems like he's not cool anymore. He's not making music. I don't know, but like I saw a thing on TikTok maybe a year ago, and it was a video of him. I guess he put out a new song that people didn't like, or I don't really follow him, but then people put him on TikTok, and they got rid of the sound. Have you ever seen these videos where people get rid of the sound and then they put like sneaker squeaks like a basketball court?
Oh no, I've never.
So it's just like him on stage with like awkward like breathing and sneaker squeaks, and then his dancing in this video is so awkward without the music.
Oh,
like
wow.
he looks like he can dance, but in this video, for whatever reason, whatever moves he's doing, he looks like he kind of can't dance that good. Anyway, so then the comments were so mocking of him, and it seemed to me that like, with this younger generation, like he's just like they just like it was almost like instantaneous. So like there was like a switch where a generational switch where the younger Gen Z were just like, oh yeah, we're done with that guy. Like he's not cool. It seemed like it, just based on this one video and the comments, I was like, oh, Justin Timberlake's done.
He's got canceled. Yeah,
he's done. And it wasn't like he did anything egregious or gross or anything. It was just like, whoa, he's just lame now. It was just, anyway, I don't know. It was interesting.
That makes me want to segue and ask you, does Naomi or is Dylan too old for K-pop Demon Hunters?
Oh no, they loved it.
They loved it.
And
Oh, yeah,
it
yeah.
was kind of interesting. It was a little bit sad because, my son he's 14, right? So I guess he was 13 when that movie was out, and they both liked it a lot. They both really watched it a bunch and played the soundtrack and everything. And then I was with my son and like one of his best friends who he was in the same school but then left to a different school, and I've watched the trajectory of this other kid, and I know it's kind of an interesting thing that happens around that age, right? Like 12, 13, 14, with boys and girls, where they start to go from being like unfiltered and unself-conscious to like wondering whether they're cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they start to wonder, like, is it cool? Like you can't just like K-pop Demon Hunters. You start asking yourself as a little preteen, like, is it cool to like it? Like if I say I like it, is that cool in this group of people to admit that I like that movie, right? Or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, I remember watching, I don't know, I've just seeing kids go through that transition is kind of sad, from when they're not self-conscious and not interested in being cool, and not even like it doesn't even register as a concept, like whether they need to be cool, to like crossing over into this new phase of life where you're suddenly wondering, like you're suddenly second guessing yourself and worried about being cool. And so anyway, I was with my son and his friend, and the movie was fairly new at that point, and my son asked it, was like, "Oh, have you seen it yet?" And then the other kid was like, his response was obviously like, "Oh, that's so lame that like people are into that." You know what I mean?
Oh, shit.
And then it just was like to hear my son try to like, just like his own. I could hear him trying to figure out like how to adjust. Like, do I just own the fact that I like this movie that my friend thinks is lame, or do I now switch my opinion? And just to hear that, like the way the conversation sort of like took a little bit of a weird turn at that moment. And I just thought, like, and who knows if that other kid, he might be in that phase where he doesn't even know if he likes that movie or not. Like he just knows it's not cool to like it, so I have to say I don't like it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, so this is just interesting. I don't know what your question was about, but like, just the movie, they were into it for sure. Yeah.
Well, so I've never seen it, and but I was over at a neighborhood friend's house, and they have two little kids, like a 6-year-old and a 4 or something, maybe 5 and 7, I don't know. And they're half Korean, like their mom is Korean, from Korea.
Okay. Yeah.
And the little one, just the entire night we were there for dinner, like just sang the K-pop Demon Hunter song, and I was like, just with like so much, like with so much passion, and I was like, wow, like it's just intriguing to me that someone came up with a story and a musical that just universally, like kids just love it. I don't know.
It's interesting because like, I mean, it's a good movie. It's a super fun movie. There are things about it that I really appreciated. My kids watched it twice before I even saw it. They were like, "Dad, you have to watch it now, and we'll watch it again with you." So, but yeah, I mean, I thought, but it is interesting how much it blew up into a cultural phenomenon. I mean, this just seems like one of those things where you can't make a cultural phenomenon. Like it's just sort of you catch lightning in a
timing and
bottle. It's lightning in a bottle, right? It's just one of those things that just happened to hit. Like you could have done a different K-pop thing. Like K-pop obviously has had its moment. We're in that K-pop moment for a few years now, right? It's like K-pop, there's something about the combination that was in that movie, and it was catchy songs and all that. What I appreciated about it when I watched it is that like they have these like, sort of diva girl group, right? And I don't know, I'm not a aficionado of K-pop at all, so I don't know. Like, but when I see these boy band like BTS and the girl groups, they just look plastic to me. Like they don't look like real people. They look like they came out of a lab, like a manufacturing facility, which they kind of did. And the boys are really androgynous, right? And it's just kind of an interesting thing that it doesn't resonate with me at all. But I guess my image of these K-pop girl groups is that they are very into fashion and their looks, and they're unironic about it. Like they're really, really just like all about their appearance. And what I kind of, and I don't know if that's true or not, but that's kind of my internal sense of it. But what I appreciated in the movie is that they had a lot of moments where this girl group, where the girls they made fun of that dynamic. Like they were into they were trying to be polished and beautiful and all that. But then like when they were hungry, for example, they were just like so extreme to like, they ate with the way they ate was so sloppy and fast, right? And so and when they were upset, like they made them look really ugly in a hilarious kind of way, right? Like, so I thought like, one of them was crying at one point and she's just like ugly crying, right? And so I thought the movie did a really funny job of playing with that beauty dynamic and not like, just like letting them be ugly or really unattractive, but in a really comical way that was kind of it hit a perfect note for me. I thought that was maybe the thing that really stood out from that movie.
There was a very funny Saturday Night Live skit, maybe like 2 years ago. And do you remember during the pandemic, Olivia Rodrigo wrote that song Drive?
Yeah.
It was like her big hit that brought her into world.
My daughter was into that, yeah.
And so there was an SNL skit was a bunch of dudes that are slowly admitting to each other that they just love singing along with that song. And my wife turned to me and I was like, I do. I actually, it's real. There's something so like teenage, like, fuck you, motherfucker. Like I drove by your house and with that other girl.
I mean, I try to tell my kids, like, there's something about, there was somebody described charisma. I think it was Brian Eno actually defined charisma. It was like, his definition was basically like being willing to be different, but with full confidence, kind of like is automatically charismatic, right? Like that's to just be yourself, basically.
Yeah.
And so I try to, because I don't want my kids to get into that groove of being really afraid to admit what they really like. And there is something really charismatic about the guy who's, or the girl who's willing to just go against the grain and really authentically, not because they're going against the grain, but just, if you have a guilty pleasure, just fully embrace it, right?
Totally, yeah.
Yeah.
And there is something.
I love that.
I remember, do you remember when we were in high school and we had this circle of friends, and it was David Byrne had come out with Stop Making Sense and he wore the big suit, and it was really cool to be, what was the word we used? Not bizarre, but to be like, if you were different, that was like the ultimate in coolness.
Yeah.
And I forget, we used the word obscure or something. Like there was like, we were always looking for being weird and not like the mainstream.
But if you were it was like you had to be one or the other, which I think is like in every 80s movie. You're either like the weird crowd or the totally like straight crowd, right?
Yeah,
like,
totally, yeah.
So we were part of the weird crowd, and when you were part of the weird crowd, you're right, like it's like, oh, I'm going to go to Chinatown and buy those Chinese shoes that nobody's wearing, and that's going to be my thing, right? Like, or whatever. Like, it's just kind of like we had to be, like if you were in the weird crowd, you had like the weirder the better.
Yeah. It was, I'll think of the word, but it
I
was
don't
something like
remember
obscure or like, but
random.
Random people, random's good. People it was like, they would say, he's just crazy, he's insane, and that was like meant that you were cool because you
I remember like I was thinking your mom had just like had a problem. Maybe it wasn't your mom, it was some of the older people were really bothered by the idea that insane was a compliment.
Oh yeah. Interesting. I remember thinking. So
I feel like it was like your mom that went on a riff about that one time, and it seems like something your mom would do. Like she's very into language and precision of language, and she's a very literate person. So I could see her being really bothered by the idea that insane was being reappropriated to be a positive thing.
She hated that the word awesome became into the common vernacular.
Oh yeah.
She thought it was only to do with like God, like an awesome, like the visage of the Lord appeared in this cloud or something. It was an awesome,
awe-inspiring,
countenance was awesome. And so we were like, well, it's just it's there, it's here to stay, We were that's pretty funny. So back to Cape. Oh, I wanted to go back to F1.
The weird thing. Yeah. F1. Yeah.
F1, and just say that like you're right that the whole when my wife and I watched it together, partway through, she turned to me and she was like, "It feels like a Pixar template. Like it's almost like, you know what I mean?"
That's what it feels like. It felt like when I watched the first 20 minutes, it feels like I get the template that this is following. Like
Yeah,
Go ahead.
and it's kind of like, remember when I said, and I'm going to say his name, but Mon Rovîa is this guy, came out of Appalachia. He's from Liberia, and he came out with that pop song. And I was analyzing it and saying, I really like the vibe of it. I like it, but it sounds like it's written, at least the lyrics were written by AI, because there's just something that's not quite right about the chorus. Like it doesn't really make sense. And I could like literally parse it for you and explain, but I was like, this movie, it almost felt like someone in the studio was like, go in, you know how like there's the joke from the player, but also the historical reference of what was his name, the Star Wars creator, George Lucas, pitching to the studio and saying, it's a Akira Kurosawa samurai film meets Buck Rogers.
Yeah.
And they were like, there you go, we'll fund that. Like that's all you had to say, and you kind of can see it, right? And it was like they just said like, hey, can you make like Toy Story 2 cars and like a racing thing, and then just like write me a script. It felt like it was like written by AI with like a couple of prompts. You know what I mean? Because it just it just didn't. I don't know. Like there was and the acting was good, and it was beautiful cinematography, and but even like when they were in the cars, like. It was so cheesy because, like, it's hard to explain. Like, when they're like one guy wants to pass the other guy, what gets him past is that his partner on the track says, "Go for it," and then like he passes him, and it's like, I don't know, like just the verbal, like willing something to, like it doesn't seem like
it seems
it's
cheap.
so cheesy. It's just so cheesy that like he would. I don't know. The whole thing. This is what I always say: is it felt like an after-school special. Do you remember those after-school specials?
Yeah, like a really expensive after-school special.
Really, really expensive after-school special shot with Aries and Sony Venices and stuff, but with Brad Pitt in it. But the whole thing just seemed so after-school special. So.
And it's interesting. I wonder. So even having watched the whole thing, like you don't see like what there was nothing more to it that you would go, oh, I get why it's a Best Picture nominee.
No,
maybe it's just like a weird bad year for cinema or something.
The last 20 minutes is the cheesiest part. I mean, like that's the thing. So like you can barely get, if you make it to the end, you're like, that's not the Best Picture. Like that should be, that could be like,
interesting.
But the after school special is a great example, and probably my kids don't remember. Like we used to come home from school.
Oh yeah.
And then they'd have like that show that had morals, and it was like very templatized, kind of very and it was like there was no sex, there were no
they
drugs.
Were always like a very it was kind of like totally. One of the after school specials I remember was Mazes and Monsters. Do you remember that with Tom Hanks?
No, Mazes and Monsters. I do not remember.
Yeah. It was like so young, very young Tom Hanks.
Before or after Big?
Before Big.
Before Big. Wow.
Definitely before Big. Yeah. Because this is a totally forgettable when he was basically like playing a teenager. So he was young enough to play a teenager. He was probably in his 20s. But do you remember there was like a satanic panic a little bit about D&D, Dungeons and Dragons?
Yeah, I have to admit that I've never played D&D.
No, but do you remember there was like a satanic panic about it? Like parents were like, "Oh, kids who are into D&D are like." Do you remember that at all?
I remember Blue Oyster Cult, Baby Don't Fear the Reaper.
Oh, okay. Well, so there was like a little bit of a satanic panic about D&D, like, this idea that if your kids get it, kind of like this Christian part of the country is like if your kids are into Harry Potter, like they're into the occult and all that, right? Like it was a bit like that, like, kids, they get the satanic, there was like the occult side of it, and there was also this fear that like, kids, they over-identify with their D&D character, and then they go crazy or whatever. So that was the premise of the movie, is that Tom Hanks, he's like really into this game, Mazes and Monsters, obviously Dungeons and Dragons, and he goes crazy. Like he starts to think he is his character, and then his friends are like, "Oh, what do we do?" That's the whole premise of it.
Oh, really? And it was an after-school special?
Well, I mean, I saw it as an after-school special. I saw it on TV.
Yeah.
I don't think it was ever in the theaters. It was made for TV. So I think I saw it in the afternoon. So I think it was like an after school special. Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Was Tom Hanks in The Money Pit?
Mm-hmm.
Money
Yeah,
Pit,
with Susan. No, sorry, with forget her name. Yeah, the blonde.
She was from Cheers, right? Wasn't she?
Cheers. Yeah.
That's right. What happened to her? She kind of disappeared.
I don't know. She her career kind of, maybe she aged out of acting like right before streaming took off, because like it seems like once the streaming world exploded, like all these, I feel like Hollywood was an unfriendly place for older female actors, older actresses, obviously, but then the streaming boom happened, and you see all these amazing roles written for actors and actresses who would have previously kind of been pushed aside for the younger ones.
Like Patricia Arquette is
oh my God, so amazing.
Like holy cow.
Perfect example. Yeah.
And what's weird is like when she was in True Romance, like I just had this huge crush on her, and she was like a sex symbol, kind of Marilyn Monroe type person with weird teeth. She was really
she was always a little bit she was never quite like the typical ingenue, but definitely like a younger yeah.
And now
she's a perfect example, and she's gone like, oh man, she's so good in Severance.
So good, yeah.
And in that there was another Apple TV series that she was in where she plays like a private eye that was so funny. So over the top. It wasn't a great show, but she was amazing in it.
Is it who does The White Lotus? Is it Mike White? Is that his name?
I can't remember.
He's created a bunch of platform, like that White Lotus show has created like allowed people to come back who were 80 stars.
Jean Smart, like in Hacks. She's another one. Like so amazing in that show. Yeah. Anyway, there's so many. I feel like there's a lot of actors, actresses. It's funny how I don't say actress. People say actress, but then it's like, I don't know, best female actor, I think is what
haven't we started saying actor? I feel like
they always say actor. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know.
It's probably
here's my unpopular opinion. I have an unpopular opinion about Star Wars. I just like Star Wars is not a very good movie.
The first one, like the first,
the first,
which is the fourth, which is the fourth
episode. Yeah, it's just not like if you watch. I think the overall story is compelling for sure, and there's a lot of great stuff in it. But like, there's so many things in it that are just like, that's kind of weak ass thing. Like okay, so when Luke's parents die, like his whole scene at that point, it's like really, really just terrible acting. Right.
Yeah,
and then for Leia, Princess Leia begins her role with a British accent for some reason, and then just stops having a British accent
during the movie. Like I don't remember.
Yeah, like her first scenes are with a British accent, and then like her third scene, she no longer has a British accent.
I think that's because Darth did something to her that got rid of the like he squeezed her throat.
But then like her whole planet is blown up right in front of her just to demonstrate the Death Star, right? Like everything she's ever known, and she has this sort of like defiant reaction to it. Like, it just seems, there's so many little things in that movie where it's just like, that's just not how. I think George Lucas's like major weakness is acting.
Well,
he never was good at getting good performances out of actors.
And that's what was my question was going to be, because I remember that he wanted to cast like non-marquee superstars.
Yeah.
And Mark Hamill, I think, was like off Broadway in a play that like he wasn't like even in, I don't even know how he got the part, but and then like Harrison Ford was super small bit parts. Like he was in Apocalypse Now as that CIA guy at the beginning.
Oh yeah.
But nothing like huge. He wasn't like a
right. Like he didn't want recognizable actors.
Actually, didn't George Lucas use Harrison Ford in his first film, which was not Grease,
American Graffiti.
Wasn't Harrison Ford in that?
I don't think so, but maybe he was. Yeah.
Anyway,
totally.
Anyway, but he wasn't like a household name.
He used him in that. Oh no, never mind. He wasn't in that. What was the sort of the predecessor to Star Wars was that? It was like a THX 1138 or something like that.
Oh yeah, that was his like student film. That was his student.
Yeah.
THX.
Nah, was
11?
it THX? Oh, because then THX
I think
became his
sound that's sort of
Yeah,
Dolby
yeah, yeah. I
sound
think
thing.
it was like THX 1138. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
something
think
like
that's right. Anyway, yeah.
What was but then Sir Alec Guinness.
Alec Guinness, yeah.
I mean, that's pretty.
Who was he was always embarrassed about that role.
Really?
Yeah, but then I think he sort of like accepted it at one point because I think when he was, I heard him interviewed about it, and he just like he was a serious actor. So I
Yeah,
think when he took that
thespian,
role, he
yeah.
just thought like this is not going to be a big deal. Like I'm getting paid a lot, and then it became a big deal, and then he was like, oh shit, like I don't want this dumb fucking role to define my career.
Yeah, totally. Oh, brutal. But
And then
yeah, James
I think
Earl Jones.
he initially saw it as just kind of like ridiculous sci-fi, kind of like cheesy business. But anyway, yeah.
James Earl Jones got to get away with not having his face show, like
Yeah,
his voice, But that's interesting. That's pretty funny. I recently read that Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher had an affair during the making of the film for like 3 months, and they kept it secret.
That makes the digital return of Carrie Fisher that much weirder.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. But she was like 20 years old or something. She was super young, and obviously a Hollywood scion from a family.
Sure, yeah, her family, yeah.
But she mentioned like how she was so and Harrison Ford was married and stayed married during that. But yeah, that's all that stuff is interesting. But you wonder like those Hollywood. I always picture those Hollywood sets back in the 70s had tons of cocaine and tons of pot. Like I just feel like that was just,
for
like
sure.
it was just like everyone was smoking weed, and it was California, and they were like,
yeah. I love Mark Hamill's later career. Like what he's done as an older actor is so great.
what's an example like of something?
Well, he did the Joker in the animated Batman. He did the voiceover he's done that for years, and he's really good.
Nice.
And I mean his was he just in? He was just in a movie that I watched where he played a grandfather, and it was a Stephen King adaptation. Oh, it was the Life of Chuck, which was really good.
Okay.
And he was really good in that.
Life of
I
Chuck.
really liked Life of Chuck. Did
I'll
you
check
see that?
out. No, I did
Yeah.
not.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, this is very worth watching. Yeah. No, I totally worth watching. Yeah, and just his older return in the Star Wars franchise. I think he's really good as an older actor.
Is it okay? I wanted to change the subject, but and that's only because in Tucson we're having this huge thing. I don't know if you've seen this national scandal, not a scandal, but like a tragedy. Someone kidnapped Savannah Guthrie's mom in Tucson. Basically, she's 84 years old. She used to go on Good Morning America.
Oh,
and
I did see something about
yeah,
that.
and it's my brother-in-law's neighborhood and my wife's best friend's neighborhood. They live like a few houses away. It's a gorgeous neighborhood. Looks at the Mount Lemmon. There's like each person has enough acreage that you can't really see the house next door, which is part of the problem. And it's rolling foothills, and so
Yeah.
I mean, I've walked by her house, but yeah, it seems like someone kidnapped her, and my wife said, it's interesting because I don't know of any, kind of like famous kidnapping since the Lindbergh baby, like in America. We have the FBI that always investigates.
I mean, there were kidnappings that became famous after the fact, but not like a famous
but not
person.
during not like a famous person. Yeah.
That was
Or like
kidnapped. That's
Patty
true.
Hearst and I guess was,
Patty
but anyway,
Hearst, yeah.
Patty Hearst. But then what's interesting is, my wife said, if you look, Colombia, like last year, there's really famous Colombian soccer player from like Shakira's hometown. The ELN kidnapped his parents. And then the mom was sick, so they let her go. And then they paid a ransom and they got the dad back. And in this case, we're like, it's kind of rare in America to have a kidnapping like this.
Like a high-profile kidnapping, yeah.
And I suspect that whoever did it watched her on Good Morning America, Googled her, or she might have even have said like, I live alone. Like I'm 84, but I'm really proud of the fact that I don't live with someone,
Did they think she was taken from her home? Or
she was taken from her home.
Some other, okay.
Her son-in-law dropped her off after dinner, around 9:30 p.m.
Okay.
The police said that there was evidence of a break-in, like the forced entry. She had a heart monitor or pacemaker that was connected to her Apple Watch. And the Apple Watch and her phone and wallet were in the house when the police got there on Sunday morning. But the Apple Watch hadn't pinged the heart monitor since 1 a.m.
Okay.
So if they,
she was far enough away from it. Yeah.
So she was taken away from it, sometime in the middle of the night, and she couldn't. And she takes medication that if she doesn't get it in 24 hours, she might die. So,
Wow.
but it's it's just so bizarre. Like so far there's been 2 ransom notes given to, like one of our TV stations in Tucson and like a national station, but no one's verified if they're real or what. But it's just one of those sort of bizarre things that I don't really remember as a child growing up, people being kidnapped. Like it just seemed like it was kind of,
No, only the stranger danger thing. Like nobody famous was kidnapped. There was that one girl, and what was her name? And that was taken by the weird cult guy, and remember they found her. She escaped from them later.
What part of the country was that in?
It was California. And they had they suspected the father for a while because usually it's a family member, but it turned out to be totally like a person that broke into the girl's bedroom and took her in the night
and took them to a cult, like made them part of the cult.
The way that she was discovered later was that, or one of the sightings was that she showed up at a gas station with a man and another woman, and they were all dressed in white, and they had the women had their faces covered, like almost like burqa style, in these white robes.
Interesting, huh?
And somebody at the gas station, I remember, I think he had a bad feeling about the younger girl and was like, something's up here. And anyway, that was one of the things that led to her being found.
Yeah.
But
I mean, this is like a Neil Postman.
I can't remember her name, but she, if I said her name, you'd probably remember the story.
Remember Neil Postman's Amusing Ourselves to Death, and his theory about like the dissemination of news and how at some point, like for me, it's like 20 minutes from my house, and my nephews live in that neighborhood. And my former sister-in-law, is freaking out because she's really paranoid about her kids' faces appearing on social media. And I always think like that's paranoid and an overreaction.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, damn, like maybe.
Well, I mean, I think that's the thing about these stories is that they are totally anomalous, like totally freak, one-time things, and we tend to, because of our own weird cognitive biases. That's the Neil Postman thing, right? We tend to overemphasize them in our own memory, in our own mind, and so like Stranger Danger that we grew up with, that became a defining aspect of how our generation parented.
Yeah, it's true.
Is not really a thing. Like it's such a rare and it's not really a risk, a thing but we lived our lives around the idea of stranger danger, or our generation raised our kids. Not everybody, not without exception, but I feel like our generation's kids, in many cases, grew up with this idea that they were overprotected. You can't be out alone, all that shit. Like that was a change that our generation made as parents. I'm not like that. I don't think you're like that, but I think most of our generation was like that with their kids because of this idea of stranger danger, the milk carton kids that we grew up with. And
were your kids allowed?
It's not really a thing.
In your cute little neighborhood, were your kids allowed to walk to that really cute little park by themselves, or did you always?
Yeah, I mean, I sent them together, the two of them. I mean, I will say this, that the world has changed a little bit, and it's not that stranger danger exists in a way that it didn't, but the things that have changed about the world is that, like where we grew up, a lot of moms didn't work out of the house, right? So sure. So there was always somebody home at somebody's house. Like
could run and knock on a door and say, help. Yeah.
Even if you got in trouble, but even if you just had to go to the bathroom, or if you got hungry, like you would just pop into somebody's house. In the group of friends that you were playing with, you just went into somebody's house and you grabbed a snack or a drink of water or a bathroom break or whatever. Like that shit was just how we grew up. And that's definitely changed. Another thing that's different about like a city where I live here, for example, is that like there aren't really neighborhood kids that know each other. You know what I mean? Because they go to different schools. Like you can live on the same block, but
Yeah.
go to, you could have 10 kids on the same block going to 6 different schools. You know what I mean? In the city because of the way the districts work and
Yeah.
private versus public schools. And so it's like you don't have this sort of dynamic of neighborhood kids in the city who know each other, who hang out, who are like, hey, what do let's go outside to the park together. So, as a parent, the world has changed in ways that mean that if I send my kids to the park or I say, yeah, go to the park, yeah, you can go. They're just by themselves. Like there's not other kids that they know and all that. So, and there's not other parents that they know. And so that's a little bit different than how we grew up. So it just changed my feeling about sending them out a little bit, just a little bit. So I send them in pairs because it just felt. But my daughter, like, she likes to go around the corner to the corner store, and my wife's a little uncomfortable with that. And, there is a part of me that's like, hey, the world is a little different for girls, and, I admit I'm a little nervous. But I also, I tell myself, like, she knows what she's doing, and the risk of stranger danger is so freakishly rare. Like that I can't let that let that rule my decisions about whether she can go to the store and have her freedom in life and all that, right? But yeah, it's on my mind. I think about it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, certainly, like there's that. It's disproportionate, as you say, like this kidnapping in the Tucson story. Really, like it's like there's nothing to do with me, and I don't have kids that live here anymore, And even my nephews that live up in that neighborhood, like they went after this lonely old woman whose daughter's famous on national television, like because you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's not like the kidnappers are going to come back and be like, let's take some other people from the neighborhood, like what I mean?
Right. Exactly. So it just seems like a totally there's no reason why. I mean, I get why you would have that feeling like, oh, now I'm nervous about my neighborhood, but then also the rational side of you should take over at that point and go, it's silly to live afraid. Like I can have these feelings, but it doesn't make sense to live by those feelings because those, this would never because of the details of the thing.
Yeah.
I just remembered the girl's name, that Elizabeth Smart. Remember the Elizabeth Smart abduction?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's in California.
Yeah. That was a huge one. It was a huge nationwide thing.
80s,
that was on the news.
Were we in the 80s?
It was the 90s, but it was a huge nationwide thing for, it was on the news a lot. But I don't know. So it's, I don't know. It's one of those names that most people would recognize, I think.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. But yeah, what we were saying about the neighborhood, being afraid of the neighborhood, like,
yeah,
I don't know. It's certainly a sad thing, and I hope they find her and she's okay.
Yeah.
But
crazy. Yeah.
I was asking my wife about other, like there was a very famous woman in Colombia. I think she was running to be the vice president, Ingrid Betancourt. She was kidnapped by the FARC, I think, for like 10 years, like kept in the jungle and like was, And when she got out, it was really, it was like this famous thing. But like, yeah, I asked Julia, and my wife said, well, now there's an army unit that's specifically tasked with rescuing people that have been kidnapped by armed
Well,
guerrilla
I know
groups.
that kidnappings like in Latin America are definitely like a technique that the groups use, like the different rebel
Yeah, you
groups
can
and
raise money
stuff.
quickly that way. Yeah,
especially like foreigners and stuff, like who might, they might be able to.
I was told when I went to Mexico City, I had this experience in probably 1995. And I went with my brand new young daughter and my wife at the time to my wife at the time was studying, she was getting a master's in bilingual special ed. So they would pay for her to go in the summer. Bill Clinton would pay for her to go in the summer to these language schools.
Yeah.
And I remember I had just come from New York, maybe a year before. And I had heard all these stories about in Mexico City, like cab drivers will kidnap you. Like you get in a cab and they'll drive off and ransom you, right? So I was really scared of cab drivers. And I get there and I'm talking to this Mexico City native, and he goes, where are you from? And I was like, well, originally I was from New York. And like, oh my God, the police, they'll grab you off the street and they'll like sodomize you with a broomstick. And I was like, yeah, I guess that. He goes, how can you live there? It's terrifying. Right. And I was like, it's so funny that they were terrified to go to New York because they heard one story about the police sodomizing some guy.
I mean, that's how our brains work, which is, like, that's what I tell myself in these,
and I said, am I at risk for being kidnapped here? And they said, well, are you like a Chevron CEO or something? And I was like, no. And they're like, no, then no one cares. Like, there's no money in it. So you got to be like an oil executive or something.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense.
It's pretty funny. But that said, anyway, but my wife is always afraid in Colombia because she said I stick out like a sore thumb, like a gringo. Just I try to look like a Colombian. I never will. I don't know what it is. Anyway, but do you have any? I have one first world problem, and that's
all right. Go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. My first world problem is I do tech support for my parents, right?
Yeah.
And so I get overwhelmed when my mom follows my dad around on Find My Phone. She
looks, tracks his location or whatever.
Well, he's sharing his and she's sharing, I don't know exactly, but I set it up for them and it always breaks. Like she goes, now it's all gray. And I'm like, like it's just an annoying thing because I have to troubleshoot it with them. And I told her, I said, can't you just, my wife and I use Google Maps. We just shared our location on Google Maps. And my mom goes, well, every time I try to log into Google Maps, it tries to use my Hotmail address, and I just don't remember the password. And so my first world problem is just that I'm trying to help my parents.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest, hardest failing things is that they keep like track of their passwords on these little pieces of paper, like, and they lose the piece
Oh my
of
gosh,
paper.
yeah. I tried to set my mom up with a password keeper thing, one password, and she handed me like this. Just a stack of notebook paper that was just like dog-eared, right? From years of like passwords scratched out and oh my God. And I got about 15 passwords into the job. I was like, I'm not fucking doing this.
So my dad, for years and years, he's been a tax accountant, and as a retiree, he still does some friends' taxes. Like he does, like has a small group of elderly people that he does their taxes.
Yeah.
But every year he buys TurboTax.
Oh yeah.
And every year for the past, let's say, 8 years, he makes a new Gmail address.
Oh my God.
Email address with Gmail for that account. Like you know what I'm saying? And so like when he calls and they're like, well, which account? And they're like, well, you have 8 accounts and they're all different passwords and usernames. And he's like, tries them and it's just...
It just like hurts me on some level to even hear that. It's just so painful.
So now he has
to try to like sort through that as a tech support is just like, fuck.
So when I go to send my dad an email, you know how like the Mac OS will prompt like some ones you've used in the past. So there's like 7 different emails that pop up from my dad. Like And the funniest one now, I've decided
like
I only
what
use.
Kind of person changes their email that many times? Like why? There's no reason to.
He would probably tell you because he can.
No, it's just because he's like, oh, I don't remember what my login for this is. It's asking for an email. I guess I'll just make a new email, right? That's what it is. Oh my God.
Oh yeah. So anyway, so now I recognize the one that I always send it to now because
How does he get his email? How does he get email though? Does he just go to a new one and like his old one is just
I think he keeps
dormant?
I think he keeps he uses them all. Because he uses some for banks and he uses some for TurboTax. Like there's one for each year of TurboTax, one for a bank, one for a credit card. Like there's different.
So but the 3 years ago TurboTax one, like what is that email address even doing now? Is it just like
those ones are
it's just dormant? It's
dormant, I guess. I guess.
Oh my God.
It's like one of those dead and
makes me want to hit my head on my desk.
Anyway, so now I just remember I recognize the email that I want to use and I've stuck to this one email for him. Yeah. But he made Longstaff he spelled it somehow
no.
LNG, something that he got rid of all the vowels. So I just call it liquid natural gas. LNG, like
Yeah,
liquid
yeah,
natural.
yeah,
So he
yeah,
says,
yeah.
which one did you send it to? And I say, liquid natural gas.
Yeah.
Liquid natural gas. So that was my long-winded first world problem is supporting parents with digital things.
What I came up with a technique some years ago before I had a password keeper for passwords, like, because I had this like, best practices to change to have not use the same password across
Right.
everything,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So I was like, how can I use the same password, sort of, and like, how can I have a memorable password where I go to a thing and I just know what my password is? I don't have to look it up. Like, if my password is going to be different across different things, but I also want to know what it is when I go to that thing. Like if I go to eBay and I haven't gone to eBay for a year, like, how do I know what it is? So I came up with this password formula for myself, which was like, I had a certain word that I would use as the basis for my password.
Yep.
And I changed a couple characters to symbols and numbers and capitals in that
Sure. Yep.
base word. So I always use the same base word, and then I would add a suffix that was basically an anagram for part of the thing I was logging into.
Right. Like eBay, you do.
So it might be like YAB or something like.
Yeah. It's like the last three letters.
That's not what I did.
backwards.
It's like, I take the last three letters and I flip them and I make them and I make the first one capitalized or something. So that was my technique. So I had I'm not revealing it here because there's a few that I haven't changed since I did that. But yeah, it was a really good system because it was actually a really complex password, but I knew what it was for every single website.
I did the same thing until I read that those are really easy to crack if you have a heavy enough processing power. Like for instance, if the person were to crack one of your, like let's say your Marriott account, and then they were able to recognize that the root of the word.
Oh yeah, I mean I realize it's better than using the same password across everything.
Oh totally.
But I understand that it's also not unbreakable. But it was my solution before I had a password manager application.
What I like to do, and I use like the Google one, and I use Apple has a new one.
I use 1Password, which I love. I've been using that for years because you can share them with family and things like that.
My
easily.
wife got us that, and none of us signed up for it, and she was kind of annoyed and canceled it. But oops. But anyway, so what I like to do now is I use I just make a totally new one. But I only liked it so that if I read it in a list, like if I look it up, I can read the name of the thing in there. And if anyone ever hacks my account and I have to redo it, I always put a curse word in there. Like Chase, fuck you, or something, like fuck you, Chase, or something like that. So if I see I see the curse word, I know that it's been hacked and it's a new one,
Yeah. No, so that actually made me think of a first world problem that I ran into yesterday, which was like I was trying to create a new account on a thing, and so I used my 1Password, and there's it has a browser plugin. So basically, when you're creating an account, like it has a little pop up on the new password field that says use suggested password, and it's basically integrated, so it saves when you pick that one. You say, yeah, I'll use that. It'll save it to 1Password automatically, right, as a new entry.
Yep.
But then when I went to paste it in the retyped password, it didn't accept pasted.
I know
entries,
that happens to my
which
bank,
they do sometimes, and that's like a security best practice.
Oh.
But then I was like, Jesus Christ! Now I have this really complicated 21 character password. That came up with automatically, and I got to go to my 1Password and I got to find it now, and then I got to type it in.
Yeah. I've done that where I have to make the browser window half the screen, and I put the password there, and then I have to look at it and carefully type it out. Yeah. It's nasty.
Super annoying. Yeah. So
well,
anyway, that was my thing. So okay.
Well, cool. Great episode. I'm glad. Satellite Haiku. Love it. Thanks for listening.
All right.
Talk to you soon. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Satellites?
A satellite represents a journey, information gathering, this journey around the Earth.